Hey you guys, what is going on? Welcome back to yet another ceiling fan discussion. And today I'm talking about Kichler. I'm actually doing something for a whole brand for once. Usually Dan does these whole brand videos and he's able to find way more information. However, Kichler in terms of ceiling fans, which is what we're talking about here, has been so recent and I have so much information on them. I'm like, well, I can just make the video myself. I even know some things that I probably shouldn't know about them. But hey, we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. So, Kichler mostly did lighting for a while. And then I want to say in the late 90s, early 2000s, I know by 2002 here that Kichler finishes were already implemented in the Emerson fan line. They'd sort of done a partnership with Emerson where at the start they just manufactured fans and some of the Kichler finishes, like Old Brick, and then there's some more. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. I would have to go through and look through the book, and I'm too lazy to do that right now. But yeah, so that's about what Kichler was doing in ceiling fans for the early 2000s. Then I think it was like somewhere between 2002 and I think 2004, Kichler had some fans made for Lowe's. I don't know whether they would have used a factory that Kichler picked or some factory that Lowe's was already using. I'm not 100% sure. All I know is that some Kichler designs were sold at Lowe's. Then once those were discontinued, pretty much all there was once again just Emerson. And eventually Kichler, I want to say it was about 2004, 2005 probably, when Kichler started introducing some of their designs to the Emerson fan line. And quite a few of them actually shared the same names that some of the early actual Kichler products did, like the High Country, the Structures, the Olympia, and I believe the Larissa was another one. So yeah, there were a few like that. And then in 2007, this was the year, I believe the first year when, well, it's the earliest catalog I could find online, but 2007 was when Kichler first had a whole book of their own for fans. And this is where they, I guess, found their own factory somewhere. I don't know whether they were using the same factory for lighting. I'm honestly not 100% sure. But what I can tell you, though, is that is about when they started doing way more of their designs. And they had a whole plethora of fans besides the like 10 or something that Emerson had made for them. And a few of the designs that Emerson had made, like I believe one of them was called the Lorraine, the Sturbridge, and there were maybe one or two more. Those didn't really make the cut. We never saw them again. So from about 2007 up until I want to say like 2013, the line had pretty much just stayed the same. They just kept adding and adding and adding and adding products. There was really no discontinuations. So basically, if you've got 2011 or up from Kichler, well, actually, like 2011, I would say, like if you got the 2011 book and then the 2011 up and up, actually, I'm getting mixed up here. But yeah, if you've got all those, you've basically got the full Kichler line in catalogs, because before that in 2010, 2009, 2008, 2007, there wasn't that much different. They just kept adding more products. 2007 and 8, they had the Kimberly fan on the cover. 2009 and 10, they had I think it was the Kittery Point, and then 2011 was the Lacey, and then they started doing supplements. But yeah, in those earlier books, they had quite a few products that looked really nice, and the products from that time period were really good quality. I have a 2008 or 9 Canfield fan, and it is really nice. And then, that keep in mind, that was one of their more Builder Basics fans. That was probably like the second or third lowest tier of Kichler you could get at that point for fans. And then these days, I've got the Chiara fan, which is only a couple years old, and it's one of the more expensive and decent fans, yet still that Canfield is way better quality. So eventually the quality does dip, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, at this point, the point I'm trying to make is that the quality of the products were good. One of the local showrooms here was the #2 Kichler dealer all over. They sold so many Kichlers. They probably had like 30 Canfield fans up on display because there were so many options for those, And yeah, they sold a bunch of Kichler. They had tons of catalogs. That was the first book I ever got from that showroom, and the first book I ever got ever. They had so much Kichler that was the first brand I really got into, and I really did like them a lot. So yeah, from about the 2007 to 2011 period. They basically just been introducing, they had quite a few more traditional ornate style fans. They had some cool contemporary designs and a few Art Deco things in there as well. Then comes 2012. This is the first supplement they do, still introducing some fairly decent products. 2013, they basically combined all the fans from 2012 into a supplement full of even more books, or more fans, sorry. And once again, still pretty amazing. 2014, they've got a new catalog. They've redesigned it, and they've got so many amazing fans. This is the first year where they really start to get rid of some of the older designs, and now they've got a whole new plethora, and they've introduced fans like the Turna and some other just absolutely amazing products. The Fray is another one, the Link. You know, they start introducing all these really cool designs that are just absolutely amazing. You know, Kichler's lighting was already great, and their fans were really starting to get that way too. So, like, I was really impressed when I saw that 2014 catalog. I was like, wow, they have done absolutely amazing here. There's tons of great stuff. And then 2015, they had a supplement introducing more products. And 2016, they had another full catalog. And then 2017, this is another time where they redesigned the catalog. And so basically, from before all the way to about 2016, they had a few different things. They had, well, mainly two. They had the Decor, which were some of the fancy fans, and the Select, which were some of the more cheaper style of fans. And in 2017, Decor still existed, but it was much more exclusive. There are only like 20 fans in it. Those were the best of the best, some of the coolest designs. And then there was the Kichler fans, which was just everything else, basically. And it was around 2017, 2018 when I started to notice the drop. Now, I should mention this, that Kichler at this local showroom, you know, they ordered a lot of Kichler. And to start, you know, they might have had like 1 in 100 fans defective, which, yeah, 1 in 100. I mean, that's not the worst. And as time kept progressing, we went from like 1 in 100 to 1 in 75 to 1 in 50 to 1 in 30 to 1 in 20 to 1 in 10, until eventually about 1 in 3 Kichler fans that they were receiving were defective. And from what I hear, from what they told me, there were no real ways to return it or to get money back. So that was pretty difficult. They did manage to find a bit of a loophole, so that's good, but it was just bad. They weren't selling hardly any Kichler. The only real Kichlers I'd seen selling recently was on our very last day when they were closing, when we were just trying to get rid of all the old stock. And actually, now that I think about it, most of those Kichlers went to me and are now in my basement as we speak. But yeah, just they slowly started to decline. And 2018 was the year I was kind of disappointed. They had the Kite. Amazing, cool fan. That thing was cool, right? Everything else, who gives a crap? There was nothing else really interesting that year. This is when some of the designs started. They had one really good thing, and then everything else was just a basic disappointment, really. I mean, I think they had fans like the Free. That was nothing special. I think they had the Test, which was kind of like the Chicago, but just a little bit different. And they had, I don't even remember what it was called. It was like the Arendelle or something like that. That thing was okay. I mean, that was about it. You know, there wasn't a whole lot going on that year. 2019 came around. They once again had a fairly decent intro. But remember, at this point, their quality was starting to dip. 2020. This is before the pandemic really set in. Oh my God, that freaking catalog. I walked into my showroom, right? And I'm talking, I'm like, ooh, new Kichler. I'm like, what is this cover? And I get to talk with them. They're like, yeah, this cover sucks. I don't know what they were thinking. And on the inside, there honestly weren't that many interesting designs or anything really interesting to note. So that was just a disappointment all around, honestly. And then 2021. Now, okay, now we're in the pandemic, but that didn't mean they had to change the whole catalog layout, but they did, and it frickin' sucked. Luckily, though, it was only for those supplements, and they moved back the next year, but literally, it was just a bunch of spec sheets put together. It was absolute crap. Now, whether they told me that they were doing this because this is the feedback they received from customers. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. It could have been because of the pandemic. If it truly is because of feedback that they received from their customers, then oh my God, those customers, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Those spec sheets are not good for catalogs. Like, one of the brands I think of when I hear spec sheet as catalog is Matthews. And people never really liked that from what I hear. Once Matthews started making actual catalogs, though, that's when it started to get better. But yeah, overall, that year was just a disappointment. They did have a couple interesting designs, nothing too special. And then 2022. This was the year when they really started, they introduced some really cool designs again. You know, I was quite happy with the intro and the full catalog was back. But in 2021, lots of designers for Kichler, the lighting, the fans, and some Elon, but I'm pretty sure most of the Elon team stayed, but a lot of the other members were either fired or quit. I've heard both. And that's why it took a while for intros to actually come out in 2022. Because basically, they were out of designers. They were fricked. That's why Elon got the catalog so early. But then all the other Kichler stuff basically just waited till June or August. Literally, there was no option, no choice. They didn't have the designers for that. I'm really not too sure whether they were fired or whether they were quit. You know, like I said, I've heard both. But obviously, they lost a bunch of designers either way. So yeah, that was quite unfortunate for them. But remember what I said about how the quality of the products is going down, you know, with all the defectives and just how cheap some of the materials can feel sometimes. It's just really not the greatest. I've heard some people say that they think that Kichler is going to go the Hunter route. And if you're a showroom person or a fan person, you likely know that that's not a good thing. Hunter these days, honestly, is not the greatest. So I really am hoping that they can come back and actually make some decent stuff. Some of the prices on the newer products are really high. I'm not too sure how decent they are because I've never worked with one. And I don't think many local places around here sell a lot of Kichler. One of them does a lot of modern forms and some of those other brands. One of them is going to start doing a lot more visual comfort. And the other two don't even sell Kichler. So I honestly don't think Kichler gets sold that much around here where I live. So I don't know when I'm ever going to experience a Kichler, but I would certainly be interested to see how those new fans are. Who knows, maybe Cole from Vintage Phantom More will have time to do a product review for them this year. If he does, then I guess we'll see how good those fans are. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I've talked about basically all I can. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.